Amid growing concerns over prison overcrowding in Nigeria, stakeholders are advocating community service as a viable alternative for minor offenders. Led by the Lagos State Ministry of Justice, sensitization campaigns have been carried out in communities across Ikeja, Lagos Island and beyond, highlighting the potential of restorative justice to rehabilitate offenders, empower victims and promote dignity over punishment. While joining us to discuss the feasibility and impact of expanding community service as a tool for prison decongestion and offender rehabilitation is Arise News analyst Dayo Sobowale, who will examine how this approach could reshape justice administration and strengthen community involvement. Mr. Sobowale, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
It's a pleasure.
So, Mr. Sobowale, do you believe that community service can help rehabilitate offenders and reintegrate them back into society, especially this Nigerian society?
A lot. I think it can be done a lot. In fact, if you look at it at state level, you see, Lagos State is a pioneer state in the administration of justice. I'm sure we have more lawyers of Lagos State origin than any other state, because the seat of the colonialists was here. So when I was young, when we were going to school, we used to see prisoners doing road work or repairing markets and things like that. But you don't see such things again. And we have seen people go to prison and come back and get involved in society again. That is the rationale behind this. But if you look at it, I don't want to see it in isolation. We have insecurity problems in Nigeria now. And not only in Nigeria, all over the world, you have Islamic insurgency and things like that. And they put people in prison. It's at the prison that they get more radicalized. So to me, I think essentially, we should follow the sort of thing they do in the United States, in some democratic states, not blindly. They say they want to decongest by defunding the police. And then they did that, they found out that the crime rate soared. But in our case, we can pump part of the money from the police. If you add money to the police, part of it to social rehabilitation, and to stem the tide of people going into prison anyway, to provide more employment and poverty alleviation. Because it's when people don't have their needs, don't see any means of getting their needs met, that is, they go into crime and they get harm. And then we have statistics that show that most of the people in the prisons, people are waiting trials. People are waiting trials. So let us speed up that and see what happens. Yes.
Mr. Sobowale, I appreciate all the realities that you laid bare. People are waiting trials. We have high rate of insecurity, high rate of unemployment. So that would probably lead to recidivism, whereby they would fall back into into a life of crime because of fewer options. Now that you've touched on the fact that a lot of people are awaiting trial, and it doesn't even seem like there's much being done about speeding up those cases, how much more pressure can we put on the judiciary to have that carried out so that we can see a natural decongestion by doing that?
Let's leave the judiciary out of it now. But you have raised a key point. I almost forgot about it. You see, there is a petition in the media against the former Attorney General of so many issues arising from bad leadership and corruption. Audit reports, investigative reports, and judicial results of judicial proofs. But the one that concerns me, as relevant to this topic, is that they have spent 8 billion on prison decongestion. You hear me? 8 billion on prison decongestion, and that is what we are discussing now. So I will beg the President Attorney General to take a look at that petition, although it is before the EFCC. So if you spend 8 billion on what we are discussing about, it will have some mileage in terms of welfare, in terms of restorative justice, which is what all this is all about. So you can see that the leadership at the Ministry of Justice matters, the way justice is dispensed. But I'm not holding brief for Lagos State, but I assure you, Lagos State has, even though it is the capital, it has better prison facilities and better restorative justice measures for people when they get out of prison than the rest of the country. And especially now that the capital is Abuja anyway, and the congestion in the Abuja prisons, Kaduna prisons, are the ones responsible for our high state of insecurity right now. So let us decongest those along line, those with Nigeria, decongest it and de-radicalize the elements that threaten our state security as a result of that.
But Mr. Sobowale, do Nigeria's institutions, have the capacity to supervise and enforce community service orders without abusing it, corrupting it, or selectively applying it to individuals involved in crime?
That's a judicial question. A very judicial question. But you see, you must give people benefit of the doubt. Allow them to be truthful. Allow them to work according to the rules of the game and obey the law. Don't assume that everybody is corrupt and that, you see your question, a Nigerian institution, I feel, see, I'm a Nigerian now, I feel offended with that, even though we know that is the situation on the ground.
So
but
why are you offended when you know that's the reality?
But it's not everybody that is like that. That's a fallacy of generalization. Not, if not, we won't be where we are now. It means even if minimally our institutions are working, that is why we have the semblance of governance and the semblance of civilized society. But don't just throw them into the dustbin by asking me, do I think they are working? They should work. They may not work well, but it is our duty to prod them, to alert them, to work according to the rules of the game. Let's leave it like that again.
Mr. Sobowale, now is this call really about decongesting prisons or about a reformation of a punitive justice system that doesn't actually rehabilitate offenders?
It is the congestion first. You see, these are human beings. You put somebody, I mean, if you have jailed somebody, yes, let him go to jail. Somebody is awaiting trial. They are still doing investigation. Okay? He can get totally disoriented that he can never, no restorative measures can make him a better citizen when he comes out. But let us put those who are on trial, let them speed up the investigations, let them bring them to trial. That will decongest the prisons more than any other thing. Then you are mentioning the judiciary, they are always the chief justices. At the end of the year, they go around and release people who are mostly on this awaiting trial. Churches to go and point out, bring out people who are there, just like we did with somebody in Saudi Arabia who was on death row. And they wrote in the paper and something came out of it. But essentially, let us make justice faster, because justice delayed is justice denied. But the reformative side of it, hopefully it will work. But then, it is the aim, it is the objective. Let us pursue it meticulously and see that it works.
So I'd like us to talk a bit about public perception and, of course, victims' rights. Should victims of crime have a say in whether community service should be applied in certain cases?
They don't. They shouldn't. They lost their right to such. They lost the right.
About the victims of crime.
Okay, victims of crime.
Yes, should they have a say in this?
I don't think so. You'll be creating a retaliatory mentality. You get me? If somebody killed somebody close to you, and they say, you want the person killed, literally, or incarcerated forever, they should not. The victims of crime should not have a say in that. Because it will tilt the balance of justice. You get me? Against the offender. If the offender has been punished to be incarcerated, and that's punishment. You can't punish him twice or take him to a vindictive judge of his future. No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Mr. Sobowale, how can we make sure that if this comes into fruition, that it is thorough? Because going by what
this congestion.
Yes. In terms of deciding who would go about the community, so who would qualify for the community service? Because like Tokpa mentioned, I recall when there was a presidential pardon, and there was a lot of backlash because there was not a lot of it wasn't thoroughly done, and then they ended up going back on some of those decisions. So how do we make sure that if this comes into fruition, that it's not something that's going to be lackluster? What metrics should be used to determine who might qualify for community service?
Thoroughness. You get me? Thoroughness in determining who is to benefit or who is. There are some situations where you see it is irreparable. You would rather have the person stay there because of the anonymity of the crime. But then, you see, I won't talk of a broken system because that's what you think our system is. But it happened in Britain.
Those are your words, not mine. Those are your words, not mine.
It happened, you see, for instance, these immigrants, they release some, even in very efficient London, they released some, and they discovered that they had committed enormous crime, and not long after they released them, they committed another crime. Then they looked through the records, they saw that there was due diligence had not been done. Get me? You see, the bureaucracy, the administration must be thorough, and apply the law to the letter. But most unfortunately, it must be efficient. It must be efficient and thorough, so that it will take, what do they say now? To get to heaven, you have to try to go through the eye of a needle or something like that. That's thoroughness, government efficiency. That is what is desirable. Yes.
All right, as analyst, Mr. Dayo Sobowale, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you.
Thank you.